Hey everyone, it's Molly, and in this video I'm going to show you a little bit about the Writer's Workshop program by Layers of Learning. Hey, that's me and my family. I'm Molly Joy, and I'm here to share the things that bring us joy today. The Writer's Workshop program by Layers of Learning, it's a language arts type of curriculum, obviously specifically focused on writing, but it ties a lot of other things in. I'll do flip through and tell you a little bit about how we have been using it. So before we discovered Writer's Workshop, we were using the typical grade-based curriculums for writing programs, grammar programs. Especially The Good and the Beautiful was one of them that we used for most of my kids. One of the problems that we were running into was that, especially for the younger years, it was really just taking a lot of individual one-on-one time all the way up through about 4th or 5th grade. And it seemed like so much of the information in each of the books was repeated year after year, which that's typical no matter what language arts program you do. I remember the same thing even in public school, that you would study, the parts of speech and sentence structure and all of those things over and over and over again, maybe at a slightly higher level each time. But it seemed like there should be an easier way to do it. I also would get frustrated because it seemed like while they could fill out the workbook pages and answer the questions, they could find the nouns, they could correct the sentences, it wasn't necessarily translating when it came to their own writing, or even just books in general. I don't think they noticed a lot of things like creative adjectives and that type of thing as they were reading, or much less writing. And a lot of that, of course, comes just with age. But it just seemed like, considering how many years that they had been doing it, it should have been coming more naturally, and it just wasn't. I also really enjoy writing myself, and I felt like my kids weren't necessarily picking up on the fun of writing or how to be creative in their writing. I wanted them to be working more on things that they enjoyed doing and enjoyed reading, sentences that were fun for them, not just scripted things from the book. And so when we found Writer's Workshop, I feel like it checked a lot of those boxes for us. The biggest one being that it's a family-style writing program, so you can do it more or less with the whole family. Obviously, the really little ones will be pretty limited depending on their writing skills, but it talks in here how to incorporate even them. And I love the idea of being able to teach grammar and sentence structure and poetry and all of those things to all of my kids at the same time, and to do it as a family subject, as that's kind of more our goal in our home anyways, is to do as much as we can as a family. So as far as how the program works, I will show you the table of contents here, and it's broken up into units. There's a unit called Jumpstart, Writer's Workshop Jumpstart, which more or less just walks you through the writing process, reminds you of some of those things like parts of speech and just the basic language arts types of skills. Then the next unit goes into sentences, paragraphs, and narrations. Then descriptions and instructions, fanciful stories, poetry, true stories, reports and essays, letters, and persuasive writing. So those are all the topics that in Writer's Workshop. They're covered as units, and in general they're set up to be approximately a month per unit, so you can go through the entire book every year. So as you would repeat it with your kids as they got older, you would just continue to make it more and more challenging as you go, which I'll explain more as I go through here. I'm going to back up. Here's the how to use this guide page, and it talks a little bit about the scheduling, how the pages are set up. There are printable packs for each unit, and those just go along with some of the exercises that are in the units, things like notebooking pages, ideas, different things like that. You can get a writer's workshop guidebook, which I can show you in a little bit. There is a word work component, which brings in some spelling and vocabulary that isn't necessarily in the writing workshop part. So if you want something more spelling and vocabulary focused, you can add this component. And there's also a research paper unit that is not included in this, and it's geared more for high school aged. So that's also a separate thing. So you can get all three of those things on their website as well. There are also resources that are online, including YouTube videos and other websites that you can use that add a lot to the program itself. So as far as the actual lessons go, this is the first unit, the Jump Start one. Each unit is broken up into steps, similar to the Layers of Learning program, which I did a video earlier about. If you want to go back on my channel and find that one, you'll notice that the pages are set up really similar. They have the sidebars with the key concepts. They have exercises within the pages that the kids will do. The first step as you go is called the mini lesson, and you'll find the mini lessons on the sidebars. Each of these are mini lessons, and you don't have to do all of them. You can. They don't have to be done in order. What the authors of this program have said is, if your kids are struggling with a specific thing, say pronouns, this is a little lesson about pronouns. You can do that mini lesson. And then the next step, step 2, is the writing step. And those are the exercises. And there are loads and loads and loads of exercises within each unit. And if you want to find an exercise that goes along with the mini unit, that's definitely a great way to utilize the program, but it doesn't have to be done that way. You can simply find an exercise that you think your kids will enjoy and then direct them maybe to focus on the pronouns or focus on the verbs or whatever you're working on that day in their writing. They have suggestions like pair a book with a writing project. They've got actual hands-on activities that you can do. It's not just writing. It walks you through in this first unit the writing process, and in each unit, by the time you complete that unit, you will have your child choose one of the exercises that they had done, bring it through the entire writing process, which includes the pre-writing, drafting, revising, editing, and then publishing. And so at the end of each unit, they'll basically have a final writing project that they'll present, and it's explaining in this unit exactly how each of those steps work. So the step 3 is the writing project, like I said, and it goes over that here. There's hundreds and hundreds of ideas in this book, journaling ideas, and it walks you through each step individually. And then this is the beginning of the next unit, the sentences, paragraphs, and narrations unit. So as I flip through the rest of the book quickly, just to kind of show you what's here, I'll tell you a little bit about how we have been using the program, and I'm going to give a disclaimer. We have not been using it long. We finished only the first unit so far, but we did really enjoy it, and the way that this program is set up, in the same way that Layers of Learning is set up. And so far, I've really enjoyed the way that it's so flexible, and you can basically tailor it to what your kids need at the time, or what they're interested in, or what you're hoping to teach them. So each morning during our morning time, we do our Bible, maybe a read aloud. We do, the typical morning time things. And then our next step is usually to incorporate a writing assignment each day. And sometimes that takes literally 10 minutes, and sometimes it can take 20 or 25, depending on what we are doing that day for an exercise. But I usually flip through a little before we start, and choose one mini lesson to do that day. So for example, in this unit, the descriptions and instructions unit, let's see, I'll find a mini lesson that I can use as an example. It's a mini lesson that specifically is talking about descriptions, and it says, place a piece of fruit in front of you and observe it for 1 minute. Then describe it out loud. How many ways can you describe it? Is there anything unusual about it? What specific adjectives, verbs, and adverbs can you associate with it? So that you would just be going through as a family. You would maybe specifically ask your kids questions that are age appropriate, like you might ask your 6th grader to describe the shape and the texture of it, while you might ask your 6-year-old to tell you the colors that they see when they look at that piece of fruit. And then after that, you could either make up your own exercise, like write a description of your favorite fruit, or you could choose an exercise that's in here. For example, well, here's one that's called Colorful Metaphors, and it's saying just write a basic description of something you found outside. Make sure to describe what it looks like as well as what it's used for. And then it goes on to give some examples. And that would be their writing project for the day. So you could assign it for them to do later in the day. You could all stop and take the time to do it right then. It's totally up to you, whatever works the best for your family. Often you'll see hands-on projects like these where they're kind of like lapbooking style elements. This would be like a flap book that you open, and then the definition is inside, and this is all part of a printable. There's also hands-on projects like this where you do a diorama or you draw a map, or different things that just can tie into writing. This one is neat because they're drawing a character of a story. So instead of telling them, write 3 paragraphs about the main character of your story, you can tell them, draw a picture of the main character of your story, and around the picture write some descriptive words like shorter than all her friends, freckles in the sunshine, crooked smile. So those are all just inspirational things that get your kids writing, and they get really excited because they're able to write what they want to write. They're able to be creative and come up with things from their head instead of just filling in the blanks or answering a short answer question, or being told, write a 3-paragraph essay on how flowers grow. And that can be really confining to somebody who enjoys writing, and also confining to somebody who dislikes writing because they don't have the freedom to even make the choices that they need to make it their own. And I think even kids who struggle with writing and have a hard time coming up with ideas would benefit from this, because you can make it as customized to your kids as they need it to be. You can give them more specific directions if that's what your child needs. You can even ask them to narrate it for you, and you can write it out for them if they're not at the stage where writing is easy for them yet. Another fun way to utilize Writer's Workshop is to tie it in with whatever else you're learning. For example, if you are studying maybe in the history of layers of learning, you're studying about ancient China, and then that morning you're doing a mini lesson on friendly letters. You could have your kids write a letter to someone who lived during the ancient China time period and tell them to come up with questions that you're curious about, or think of things that they would want to ask the government in that time, or what the city looked like, or how it functioned. So you can tie in this writing, your mini lesson, with other things that you're learning too. So you can come up with exercises on your own that aren't even listed here. I feel like so far it's been a really good fit for our family, and in just using the first unit of Writer's Workshop, in all 3 of my kids who have been using it, I have seen a huge jump in their writing skills, both creatively and even in their sentence structure and that kind of thing. And those are things that you just continue to work on. And if you listen to the podcast that the Layers of Learning authors did about the Writer's Workshop program, they go into a lot more detail, and they explain more of how to teach it, how to correct it, how to see progress, and those kinds of things. So I definitely recommend that you go listen to that podcast. I'm also going to do a video coming up about how we set up our Writer's Workshop, the binders that we use, how each kid's notebooks are set up, how my teacher's notebook is set up, and so on. So subscribe if you want to see that coming up. And if you have any questions, leave them for me in the comments, and I'm happy to answer them or make another video showing more details if you wanted something specific. Have a great day. Thanks.